implications of our work to future agricultural systems research. First, I would like to introduce you to the sod-based rotation system this project is examining. Here are the basics that you need to know without going into great detail. First, the purpose of this system is to improve soil quality by building soil organic matter through the introduction of Bahia grass varieties, such as Tifton 9. This increase in soil organic matter is thought to increase water efficiency, improve water infiltration, reduce fertilizer application, and reduce nematodes within the soil. By introducing cattle into a traditional cotton peanut rotation, the enterprise becomes diversified. This introduction is thought to reduce the economic risks for farmers who were once dependent on only one or two commodities. And so, as you can see, here's the rotation, and you plant 2 years of Bahia grass, and cattle stay on the second year of the Bahia, and then the Bahia grass is followed by peanuts and cotton. Our study is part of a much larger project to investigate the socioeconomic viability and agroecology of integrating beef cattle and short-term perennial grasses into peanut cotton rotations. Most of the previous research in this project is focused on the establishment of the system and its biophysical aspects. Until recently, this research, which was established over a decade ago, has been funded by earmarks as a line item in a budget. Now, this project is funded through a USDA AFRI Small Farms and Rural Development Program grant because it was cut from the budget that previously funded it. The Alabama Agricultural Experiment Station is maintaining the system under investigation. We are part of the first team of social scientists to look at the sod-based rotation. Several ag economists are studying the actual costs to adopt the sod-based rotation compared to a traditional crop rotation. We only recently joined the research and have completed phase 1. We were initially invited to study stakeholders' concerns about adoption of the sod-based rotation system. The initial research of sod-based rotation systems began in Quincy, Georgia in the late 1990s. It has since spread to locations in both Alabama and Florida. These research plots have contiguous fields with pivot irrigation systems. This is important to consider since most of the producers in the area who are likely to adopt this system do not have contiguous land or irrigation. They also tend to rent a sizable number of their cropland, total acres. Agriculture in the southeastern United States has historically been hard on soils and risky due to uncertain weather patterns and commodity prices. Climate change has also become a notable issue. The sod-based rotation system was developed as a sustainable agricultural method to mitigate those challenges. We were invited to participate in this research study to study the barriers and constraints producers in the wiregrass region face when they consider adopting a sod-based rotation system. You can see on the map the area that's under investigation, which is the wiregrass region. This study was first presumed to be an adoption diffusion type study. Therefore, our initial research question is, what barriers and constraints do producers perceive when considering adopting a sod-based rotation system? To answer this question, we engaged in participant observation at 2 different events. One growers workshop and one growers field day. Approximately 80 individuals were observed. The purpose of our observation was to record the questions which arose when producers were introduced to and discussed the sod-based rotation. After participants consented to take place in our research, we made over 6 hours of audio recordings. These recordings were transcribed and the transcriptions were loaded into in vivo for coding based on emergent themes. It became apparent early in the data collection process that the project we proposed did not actually fit with what we were finding within the field. Our preliminary analysis of the sod-based rotation system includes a critique of the process of information dissemination, a laundry list of concerns that prevent producers from adopting the system, an analysis of system design, and it also identifies thoughts of producers, extension professionals, and researchers on the project which did not align. We found that growers had a host of concerns about the system. The growers agreed that since the experiment had not been tested on a true dryland situation, they were not likely to consider adopting it. They feared that their non-irrigated farms would not sustain such a system. Irrigation itself was a major concern due to the high cost of implementation. Producers were also concerned because they did not have contiguous land, rather than the one large tract that they saw the system on. Many producers also said they would be unable to build a well or reservoir on their land, which would be required to feed such an irrigation system. Farmers who rented some or all of their land thought that it would be impractical because of the infrastructure necessary to build. Not only would the system be too costly, they risked having the ground rented from under them due to short-term lease agreements. Many growers expressed interest in other sustainability practices, especially winter cover crops, as they do not require the infrastructure that is required to be invested in the sod-based rotation. This makes it feasible on rented land. Growers were interested in alternative crops that could be planted in the system, like corn or soybeans. They also wanted the option of working into the system incrementally. Farmers voiced concerns about their ability to tackle the management of this system. Due to system complexities, it became very apparent that adopters understand it became very important that adopters understand the timing of the system and the agricultural methods used within the system. And just to illustrate this, my slide is gone, I'm sorry. There's actually like a really long list of concerns that the a really long list of the things that producers are supposed to think about before adopting the system, and it's 75 points long. And that doesn't even include the things that they do on a day-to-day basis to maintain the system. These are all the things that they have to get in place before they can even start the system. So obviously that would be daunting to anybody to see this 3-page list of 75 line items that you have to consider and figure out and work the wrinkles out of before you start. So anyway, some farmers were concerned about how implementing such a system would affect their insurance coverage. Many insurers require farmland to be in production a set number of years for certain crops to be insured. Finally, many of the growers who did not currently own cattle were fiercely opposed to having cattle, claiming if we wanted cattle, we would already have them. In contrast to the growers' concerns, we found that many of the extension professionals focused on the sustainability and the reduction of inputs. However, they expressed concerns about promoting such a system to their clients until more research into the economic feasibility of the system was conducted. Extension specialists wanted additional information on size and profitability, as well as the impact of commodity prices upon the system. They wanted to know how the system would work without cattle, which was similar to the thoughts of the growers. While growers and extension specialists focused on feasibility, especially the economic feasibility of the system, this concern played a far smaller role and a slightly different role among the investigators. They believed that it was important to farmers to diversify their farm operations to deal with unpredictable climate conditions and uncertain commodity prices. Researchers articulated the importance of building soil organic matter to increase yields and protect against further nutrient depletion to soil. They also agreed that the system helped to break pest cycles, which was one of the key benefits of this system. Many of the researchers on this project seem to be very confident in the benefits the system had to offer, and they believe the system will be profitable. However, the economic feasibility of the system has yet to be completed, as the agricultural economists are currently in the middle of doing that. Although this important component of the research remains incomplete, researchers have been endorsing the sod-based rotation system by giving farmers professional-looking publications with estimated costs and profits. This is a concern because the information that they are disseminating to farmers has not been validated and may be misleading. Farmers who decide to enter the system based on these publications may have serious consequences later. Today we've learned two very important things. First, we learned that growers have significant concerns about the system that do not align with the concerns of researchers and extension agents who have developed the system. Second, we have learned that extension specialists were more in tune with farmers' concerns about the sod-based rotation than were the researchers. However, neither group expressed the same general concerns about the system. These findings are important because stakeholder input and feedback were not used when developing the sod-based rotation system. There was no consideration of the structure of agriculture, such as where producers are located and why they grow things a particular way. The socioeconomic constraints on their production, like lending institutions, insurance, and subsidies, were also not considered. Since the system has not been tailored to the perceived needs of growers, they have little interest to adopt. Moreover, those who are interested in adopting a system like this are looking for incremental ways to do so. They are interested in systems that they can go in and out of depending on commodity prices and other conditions, and they are interested in system modifications such as substituting other types of animals or crops. While research about sod-based rotations has been going on for a decade, only a very small number of producers have adopted the system. The system is very complex and requires extensive management capabilities that not all farmers possess. Most likely, this is a result of research in which cultural practices are not consistent with the circumstances that wiregrass region growers face. Up to this point, the sod-based rotation project has existed in a vacuum without stakeholder-defined objectives and feedback. The findings of the study illustrate the consequences of research that has been initiated without stakeholder input to project objectives, design, and oversight. Jim Hightower, who's well known for his criticisms of the land-grant complex in Hard Tomatoes, Hard Times, alluded to such blatant stakeholder omission when he wrote, "The complex must again become the people's university. Agricultural research is systematically irrelevant, fragmented, and corrupt of purpose. It has too often been research for its own sake. In many ways, this project has become research for its own sake." We are currently preparing to enter the next steps of our sod-based rotation research. We will be conducting interviews and site visits with a few producers who have adopted such a system. This will give us an opportunity to see the system at work outside of the research setting. We will interview producers about how the system was implemented and discuss the challenges they faced during this implementation process. We will also be attending beef cattle production meetings in March and April at the Research Center. This participant observation may yield different results than our initial research because these participants already raise cattle and may be open to a system that includes cattle. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Yeah.
Have you presented this on campus?
No. I'm not sure how they would feel about it.
I'm wondering.
Yeah.
This is an interesting conclusion.
Right. And what we've actually found is that the people on the project we were kind of added because it was needed to get the grant money. I'm not so sure that they actually care about what we find or will even listen to what we find. In fact, they finally learned Dr. Warrose's name after, over a year on the project, instead of just being the sociologist, like with a capital T. So they also weren't sure that she could actually do interviews with farmers. They weren't sure how that was going to pan out. So I do today.
Well, good luck.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? All right, thanks.
I had that same question.